myself, well, then I could. I'm gonna try to be late one day too. I don't know.
We would just assume that you forgot. Or that you double booked yourself.
I double booked. I remembered perfectly fine.
Okay.
Can you help me? Can you give me how to introduce? Where is, there's our candle letter.
What do I do when they go?
Drill into everybody the correct Shabbat tune. But you could teach them all kinds of wonderful midrash about candles and lighting and tradition, but you would drill into them the right Shabbat tune. Think about that. I think it'd be
Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם סלם, עלינו ועל כל העולם סלם שלום, סלם, עלינו ועל כל העולם סלם שלום. היו, 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 היו,
Shabbat Shalom. Good to be with all of you this afternoon. As I was driving in, I was sort of in my mind, sort of trying to get myself excited about getting on Zoom again. And then as I pulled into the parking lot, was remembering that we're not on Zoom anymore. We are, but in point of fact, we're back in the sanctuary, and it's really special to be back with you. Some of you were with us on our debut last week. We're glad you're here again, and some are here for the first time in a long while, if not the first time ever, and delighted to be able to welcome Shabbat with each and every one of you, with Molly and with Don. This evening, significantly in celebration of Pride Week here in Pittsburgh, we have made a deliberate effort to select various composers from the LGBTQ community and to highlight their music and their compositions this evening, as well as to share some of our readings tonight from the prayer book Sidur Shar Zahav from Congregation Shar Zahav, which in Hebrew means Golden Gate, the first gay and lesbian congregation in San Francisco, and their prayer book. So we'll be pulling from these different traditions this evening. We continue, however, with song Hine Matov on page 10, celebrating what it means for us to gather together.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, יאללה לי לה 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 לה, הנה מה טוב, יאללה לי לה 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 לה, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
And our candle lighting on page 2, it's a privilege to welcome Ruth Yar back for the honor.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivonu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. Last week, at this point in our service, we shared the Shehechianu because it was a significant and momentous opportunity to express our gratitude for reaching that moment, our first back in the sanctuary. If you'll indulge me, I think if we do it tonight and then next Friday as well, it becomes a tradition. So I'd like to invite you to join with Molly and Don and me as we celebrate reaching this moment and appreciating this moment, our lives, our health, and the privilege of gathering together to celebrate both.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
On page 24, we continue with Kabbalat Shabbat, our greeting of Shabbat on page 24, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon, Melech, Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. בואכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי From Psalm 96 from Kabbalat Shabbat, Shir Chadash by our friend Julie Silver.
Page 13.
Shiru Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru Adonai shir chadash. Shiru Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God on the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru Adonai shir chadash. I will sing unto God a new song. And from Psalm 29 on page 19. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yevarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yevarech et amo. Shalom. Shalom. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yevarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yevarech et amo. We greet Shabbat, the bride, the beauty of Shabbat, on page 20 and 21 with Lechadodi, a setting by Elana Arian. Lechadodi, likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi, likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, ishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lechadodi, likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi, likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha,
Please rise.
בואי ושלום, עטרת פלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת תקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
And it's become our tradition that rather than returning to your seats, you turn to one another and to safely greet each other. Offer Shabbat Shalom. Long time no see, good time talk.
Hello, Rabbi.
Hey, hey.
Hey. Bert, Rabbi Bert, are you there? Jan,
Hey, Jay. Hi, Jay. Hey,
how are
Rabbi.
you? Mr. David Bisno, how are you? You can't hear us.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Hi, Jay.
Hey, Terry, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Let's get some of these people to show up a little bit. They're all under mute.
Yeah.
God.
Hi,
And
Bill.
no video.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Hi,
But
Terry.
no-
Hi.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, well, we can see a person.
Oh, Natalie Sherman.
Hi.
Hello.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey,
Hi,
Terry.
Natalie.
How are you doing, Terry?
Good. How are you?
Fine. Missed you at some camp events.
Well, I know. It's just like everything. I was probably at Sisterhood event or something.
Oh,
Hi, Molly.
great.
Camp's open though, so that's
Yep.
good.
Yeah, they'll be open soon.
Yep,
Further,
Been really nice.
but for
I
right
know.
now, we are going to continue with the Psalm for Shabbat.
Oh,
We're all
goody.
talking and she's talking.
That's all right. I'm mutiny now.
Back to your regular programming.
Oh, he's not.
We good to go?
Page 22. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון
Page 26, we transition from Kabbalat Shabbat with the Chatzi Kaddish, which we follow with our call to worship.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ילמד יברח יוציב ימליך מלכותי וחייכון ויומכון ובחיי תכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמירה במברך לעולם ולעולם יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשו יברכו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה אמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
If you are able, won't you please rise for the Baruch Hu? Page 28. Standing. A reading from Shar Zahav. Hail the hand that scattered space with stars, wrapped whirling world in bright blue blanket air, made worlds within worlds, elements in earth, souls within skins, every one a teeming universe. Every tree a system of semantics and pushed beyond probability to place consciousness on this cooling crust of burning rock. Oh, praise that hand, mind, heart, soul, power, or force that so enclosed, separated, limited planets, trees, humans, yet breaks all bounds and borders to lavish on us light, love, life, this trembling glory. Page 32, Ahavat Olam.
תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
34.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Said Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, why does the verse in V'ahavta say, "And these words that I command you this day shall be al levavecha, on your heart"? Why not does it say, in your heart? The reason, he offers, is that you cannot always put something in your heart. Sometimes the heart is utterly closed. At those times, all you can do is place words on your heart in the hope that one day your heart will open and the words will fall in. Micha Mocha, page 40.
La 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 la, כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. השיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, העמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, העמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, העמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם. השיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, העמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, העמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, העמידנו שומרנו לחיים. העמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. A celebration of Shabbat V'Shamru on page 44. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. הנה ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת חיי נפש. Rise in body or spirit for the Tefillah, which begins on page 46 with the meditation, and continuing through page 52, followed by our own silent prayers. Adonai simchatai tiftach ufiach shehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, למען אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. Page 62.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום
Page 253 in the center of the page, we have the text from Misha Berach, our prayer of healing and hope, renewal and peace, as we read aloud names we have collected this week and over recent weeks. We invite you to share names aloud if you wish to do so, those for whom you offer a prayer of healing, hope, renewal, and peace. And should those who are on Zoom wish to share names in the chat, we'll read them aloud as well. In the middle of 253, we find the text from Misha Berach, and in these people, for these folks, we pray. Mark Altbier, Ira Altschuler, Dale Anderson, Miriam Baral, Ann Barber, Lou Salenzi, Hinda Sara, Batchana Perel, Kathy James, Cy Lauf, Mary Litzel, Chaim David Ben Miriam, Reef Kireshi, Bill Rakoff, Debbie Rokaski, Eliana Shira, Drew Tomasi, Clodius Willis, Joan Wolf Woolley, and Doreen Zisla. Other names to share? Anyone wish to share a name aloud? Thank you. Thank you. Please. Thank you. You have names there? Please, Chuck. Thank you. We name also Brian Reuter, Lee Kramer, Joanne Newman. We join together. Many here will remember that there used to be a television commercial for Wendy's hamburgers where a little lady like the size of Dr. Ruth would complain to her friends about the other burger places demanding, "Where's the beef?" because their patties ostensibly were too small. If you're old enough, you remember this commercial. We were all watching the same 3 television channels at the time. It was viral. It was a meme before we knew what those notions were. I think it was on the cover of Time magazine. Where's the beef? It's in this week's Torah portion. It's called Korach. It's a story of rebellion. It's a story of complaints that are brought to the Israelite leadership, that are brought to Moses. Korach brings a challenge to the leaders, for he is a troublemaker, the tradition tells us, and a rabble-rouser who complains to Moses and Aaron. "Here's my beef," he says. "Why do you make yourselves out to be better than the rest of us?" That's the complaint of Korach. Who made you boss over me? Who decided that you should be granted access to the tent of meeting? Who made it such that you should have privileges that the rest of us do not enjoy? Are we not all equal in the sight of God? Demands Korach. Quite a beef, a lot of meat there. So our text from Sanhedrin, from the Talmud, the right-hand side of that folio page, has in it a discussion of the biblical story of creation, and in particular, a discussion of why it is that creation begins with the story of a single individual, Adam, from whom the rest of humankind is descended. We read the rabbis who teach us that there are two reasons in this particular section of the Talmud, two reasons that Adam is created solo, and they are as follows. I read, therefore Adam, the first man, was created alone to teach you that with regard to anyone who destroys one soul, if you kill even one other person, this verse teaches that it is as if you have destroyed an entire world. As Adam was one person, from whom the population of the entire world came forth, so too does anyone who saves one soul, does this verse ascribe to such an individual as if they sustained an entire world. It's likely a familiar teaching to many. You may not have known where it came from. It's a beautiful teaching, significant and deep. You may have heard it before. The significance of every single person, no matter who they may be, that every person is worth that of the entire world. So good. But the Talmud discussion doesn't stop there. It goes on to say that Adam was created alone, additionally, to stress the importance of maintaining peace among people, so that one person will never be able to say to another, my father was greater than your father, so that no one will be able to say that my lineage is greater than your lineage. Also, a fascinating insight. The idea that Adam was created uniquely solo, precisely to maintain peace among people, because while today we may recognize, or may at least assert, that all are created equal, even as we have yet to live up to that ideal in practice, our Talmud teaches, the Torah suggests, that it is not only today that all are ostensibly equal, but because we share a common progenitor, a single individual in Adam, then all the way back has it been the case that we are of the same family. The teachings are brilliant and necessary precisely because they are so simple, they are so essential, they are so sacred, and they are so easily and quickly dispensed with. Consider in your mind's eye those ancient rabbis who sat around the table and parsed the text and came up with these wisdom teachings. I wonder if the rabbis you imagine having these discussions in your mind's eye, if they look anything like the older rabbis, present company accepted, the older rabbis you might even know personally. For a lot of people, the idea or the normative image, the default ideal of a rabbi or even a Jew equals white or Ashkenazic origin. And that leads to a wide range of challenging assumptions and biases that encroach on our all realizing the very same ethic that the Talmud is pointing us to and that Korach is challenging. The beef Korach has with Moses is, after a fashion, not so dissimilar to the experience of those members today of the Jewish community who are on the short end of the Ashkenazic, Sephardic, Mizrahi divide. Allow me to define a few terms and to give a greater frame of reference. The time we are speaking of begins in the late 17th century with two groups of Jews conventionally known as Ashkenazim and Sephardim. They're terms you likely may be familiar with. In recent centuries, Ashkenazim have been understood to comprise two subgroups, both of whom ultimately trace their roots back to Ashkenaz, the medieval Hebrew word for Germany. Jews of Central or Western Europe or Germanic origin who spoke German or a form of Yiddish, and the Eastern European Jews who typically spoke Yiddish or Slavic languages. And then there are the Sephardim. The Sephardim, from the medieval Hebrew word for Spain, are also divided into two subcategories. Those from the remote Iberian origin, Spain and Portugal, and those who settled in the Americas, in the West, and spoke Portuguese and Spanish. And then there were the Eastern Sephardim, those who came from the Ottoman Empire, Turkey, and the Balkan regions, and spoke mainly Ladino, a Jewish language that fused Castilian and Turkish and Greek and Arabic and French. And then there is a third group, much larger than both of the first two, and that is the group of Jews who come from the Middle East and from North Africa and from Arab countries today, and we call them today Mizrahim, because Mizrach means east, and they are from further east than was Europe. And so we have the Ashkenazim from Europe, if you will, the Sephardim from the Iberian Peninsula and the Mediterranean, and the Mizrahim, who are from the Arab countries. And the rabbis of the Talmud, they would likely, those Babylonian rabbis, would have likely been classified as Mizrahim. They would have been today recognized as brown. Now for a new word. It pays to enrich your word power, so here goes. This is a big one. Too many letters for tiles and Scrabble. It's Ashkenormativity, coming from Ashkenazic and making it the default Ashkenormativity. And here's what it means. Ashkenormativity is a unique form of Eurocentrism that has found its way into the Jewish community and into our culture. In a twisted way, the whiteness that became a hallmark of power due to Western European colonialism rewarded those Jews who could pass as white, in particular Ashkenazim, which accounts for our ability in this country to assimilate so well those who are Ashkenazic. While in much of actual Europe, anti-Semitism is so deeply rooted therein that even having white skin doesn't necessarily enable you with privilege. In the case of the United States, Jews are able to pass as white, but not so in other parts of the world. The same way that in so much of society we have defined white people as the default, a similar sentiment has translated itself into defining Ashkenazi as the normative Jew. Obviously, we are grappling with such racial questions here in the United States. Are we, in fact, a community where all citizens are equal? Are our policies and programs and police departments racist if the outcomes they produce are racist in spite of their intentions? But know this, and this from a rabbi, and you heard it here first, this is not only an American issue. In Israel, even though Jewishness is in no way stigmatizing, Sephardi, Mizrahi, and now Ethiopian Jews still face the brutal realities of racism. Indeed, until just this past January 2020, so a year ago, the religious practices unique to Ethiopian Jews were not until then fully acknowledged by the chief rabbinate as an authentic form of Judaism. This means that for the last few decades, many Ethiopian Jews living in Israel either had to convert to rabbinic Judaism, read Ashkenazic normative Orthodox Judaism, or jump through hoops to be able to engage in major life events like marriage, much like Reform Jews in Israel. Systemic racism from both religious and policing structures in Israel vis-a-vis Ethiopian Jews includes throwing out blood donations given by Ethiopians, sending Ethiopian teens early in their assimilation into Israeli society after immigrating, sending these teens off to boarding schools. These were on top of police practices like racial profiling with which we are familiar, as well as racism from fellow Israelis. The list of injustices goes on. Out of the many issues of racism that have occurred against Mizrahi Jews at the hands of Ashkenazim, one of the most chilling is the disappearance of over 1,000 Yemeni children in the 1950s that until the last 2 decades went wildly under-investigated. Opines one contemporary Sephardic Jew whose family hails from the eastern side of Greece. What does it mean to be Sephardic in an Ashken-normative Jewish world? As a minority within a minority, every Sephardic cultural act is one of conscious self-othering. It is disillusioning, this individual goes on to describe, it is disillusioning to be outwardly Sephardic even in the most welcoming of Jewish environments. And I see this whenever I perform a ritual in the wrong way. when I need to explain my olive-toned skin, and when I have to give a history lesson to clarify that, yes, indeed, the Greek side of my family is also the Jewish side of my family. Surely these complaints are insulting to those Sephardim or Mizrahim who cannot pass as Ashkenazic as I can, due to my own mixed heritage and innocuous last name. But every time I do or think about these things that set me apart, I sympathize with other marginalized minorities as I identify with my Sephardic heritage. Being Sephardic in the Jewish world is a double minority with a history of double exile. In essence, says this man, to be a Sephardic Jew in an Ashkenormative Jewish world is to be the Jew of the Jewish world. 20th century theologian Abraham Joshua Heschel writes that religion and race, how can these two words be uttered together, he asks. To act in the spirit of religion is to unite what lies apart, to remember that humanity as a whole is God's beloved child, while to act in the spirit of race is to sunder and to slash, to dismember the flesh of living humanity. Is this the way to honor a parent, to torture their child? How can we hear the word race and feel no self-reproach? Heschel goes on, the ultimate worth of an individual is due neither to his or her virtue nor to their faith. It is due to God's virtue and to God's faith. Wherever you see a trace of a person, there is the trace of God. From the perspective of eternity, our recognition of equality of all people, of all human beings, is as generous an act as the acknowledgement that stars and planets have a right to be in the heavens. Today in this country, we enter another year of racial reckoning following the last, and we are challenged nearly daily to think beyond established or familiar models of identity and solidarity. And on this Shabbat, when we read again Korach's complaint that access and authority, privilege and power need be apportioned in such a way that represents and is granted respect to all partners and redress is available to all parties, the challenges before us are clear and the excuses are too little too late. Now is the time to respond, not to defend ourselves, but to redeem ourselves and to redeem our world by taking seriously the teachings of these old non-white rabbis who taught that we are all descended from one individual and we all have a single set of parents, and therefore each of our lives is worth that of every other human being everywhere, and no one can claim his or her or their lineage is any better or more deserving than another's. Korach wasn't wrong. He is critiqued for his approach, which is another sermon for another evening. But for his ideas, we ought to be grateful because they are discomforting and because they are challenging and because he spoke his truth and his beef, he gives us a lot to chew on. Shabbat Shalom. We turn back to our prayer books, page 282. In the middle of the page there we find Aleinu, and once more do we invite you, as you may be able, to please rise.
So we're going to focus on text on page 284, Vehashevota, which means to know this day and take it to heart that Adonai is our God. And this is responsive, and I look forward to hearing you.
4 lines, the top of the page. Third line from the bottom.
Ki Adonai,
Ki Adonai,
Hu HaElohim.
Hu HaElohim.
Page 287. Ve'nemar, ve'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz. Vayom hahu, yihyeh Adonai echad. Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo echad.
If you are able, won't you please remain standing as we turn together to 294. There to find the Kaddish. Shall we allow the names of those whose passing occurs in these most recent days and those, the anniversary of whose passing we mark with the yard site this week. Should you have a name you wish to share it in the chat or aloud, we'll solicit them in just a moment. We are mindful now of the loss of Leonard Barrenfield, Carol Tobin Lewis, Hope Kalman Layton, Sally Libson, Jeffrey Mark Robinson, Eugene Strasburger III. We remember as well Phyllis Apter, Rose Kaplan, Cynthia DiPastino, Brennan Frank, Irving Gruber, Ida Korn, Jack and Estelle Krugman, Ruth Lieber, Renee Linder, Kathy Malott, Deborah Somers, Leo Stern, Phyllis Weinstein, Andrew Wolf, Barry Saul Yar. Other names to share for Kaddish tonight? Anything in the chat? No, I can't see just yet. Okay, turning together to these ancient hallowed words of Kaddish, we share the words and rhythms together. Yitkadal, v'yitkadash, shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kariv. V'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach. V'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha. Brichu. Leila min kol berchata v'shirata. Pushpachata v'nechamata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Osei shalom bimromav. Hu ya'asei shalom aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to each and every one of us, to all Israel, and to all the world. And let us together say, Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen.
We continue with announcements. We turn to our president, Karen Breen, for her final Shabbat in office.
So first, a word of thanks to the worship team, Rabbi Bisno, Molly May, Don McGahan. Thanks, as always, for inspiring us with your music and your words. And I'm happy to have learned this what is my new word again?
What is it? Ashkenormativity.
Ashkenormativity. So thank you for that. Also, some thank yous to our ushers, Tim Littman and Sandy Davis. Thank you so much. To our Zoom Meister, Bill Klingensmith, and our Zoom Meister in training, Caleb Karsh. Thank you for helping run the Zoom. To Ruth Yar for lighting the candles. So just a couple of announcements, mostly to tell you about the annual meeting. I hope you've heard about it. It's on Sunday at 11 o'clock. We'll be starting in here for it, and then we'll be moving to Levy Hall. I should back up. Those of us who are presenting to you and those who are being installed or passing the gavel on to someone else will be in the sanctuary and then moving to Levy Hall, but we ask all of you to please join us by Zoom or by phone. So hopefully you've gotten the information. It's here on the screen. It's been sent to you by email. It's in the Shalomogram. Find a way to join us. The annual meeting is the work of the congregation. It's a time to usher in new board members and officers, to honor people, to talk about the budget and to think about the coming year. There's a lot to do, and so we hope that you will join us. And that's the point where I will pass the gavel on to Matthew Falcone, who's the incoming president. And in fact, going forward, Matthew will be giving these announcements. So thank you for these many months that I've been able to share greetings from the board. And I look forward to seeing all of you in the pews from now on. Thanks so much, and Shabbat Shalom. Oh, JJEP. Thank you, Bill, for putting up that slide. So JJEP registration is open. If you know anyone in the congregation who is thinking about religious school for their child, they're certainly free to talk to Rabbi Friedman and Kate about what to expect at JJEP. But also, you know that it's a joint program of ours with Beth Shalom, and there are kids in the program whose families are not affiliated with the congregation. So if you know someone in the community who has a child who's coming to religious school age, I hope you'll encourage them to investigate JJEP. In fact, Rabbi Friedman has been outside on the lawn at the preschool graduation talking to those parents. So I want you to know he's marketing this program. So thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks. We continue with our blessings over wine and challah. You can find the blessing over wine on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uv'ratzon, inchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. If you're able, won't you rise for our concluding benediction, after which I'll invite you as you make your way out of the sanctuary to be good enough, if you would, to take your prayer books, please, and we'll return them to the cart just outside. And if our practice continues, if you will please help us by abiding to the rule that as you make your way through the sanctuary and then out into the commons area, you'll remask as you make your way through the building. Brachim atem bavoachem, brachim atem b'tseitchem, as we have been blessed in our coming together this evening and in our sharing this hour of song and spirit, so may we be blessed as we go forth into an evening of safety and celebration, into a weekend of purpose and relaxation, and into the rest of our lives endowed with a sense of purpose and peace. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.